Can you see it?
All right, so I hit record.
Yep, I see record.
Yay.
Yeah, it says it's recording.
Yep, okay. Thank you. Sorry to interrupt.
Okay. So the concept of Docassembly is that you have a screen that has one question per page usually, and it's designed to be very mobile friendly. So if I were reviewing this on a small device, it would automatically reduce the text and look nice. So here's the start of a name change petition. I've decorated this question with a little bit of clip art. And the first thing it asks is whether the name change is being done by the person who wants to change their name, or whether it's being done on behalf of somebody else. And this is asked for two reasons. One, the name change petition has a section that says, you know, if this was filled out by somebody else, put that person's information here. But secondly, depending on what I select here, it'll ask the questions differently. So I'll say myself. So it's going to ask, have your civil rights ever been suspended? Whereas if I said I was going on for somebody else, then it would ask questions about, you know, has Jonathan Pyles' rights ever been suspended? So I'm going to say for myself. And one of the things you can do is you can have a help screen for any question. So and it pops up in yellow, and it says if you've ever been convicted of a felony, say yes. I'm going to say no. And then this interview, like a lot of interviews, begins with a lot of boilerplate stuff, which could probably be explained better than I've explained it here. But I'll say that there has been a money judgment. And then it reminds me that I'll need to know some information later, because this form was rather long, and I would feel bad if somebody expected to be able to assemble their name change petition and they got 15 minutes through and then realized they needed to go look up information. Now you can sign in and save your answers and come back later, but it's still pretty convenient if you can do it all in one sitting. I'm going to say that my name has been changed by marriage and by a court. And then it warns me that I'll need to have the court order and the marriage certificate before I continue. It also says that if I have a mobile device with a camera, or then I can, or if I have the documents as files on my computer, I can upload them to the petition. So I'm going to put in an address in Florida, which I pulled off of Google Maps randomly. It doesn't mean anything. And one of the things that it does when you put in an address is it automatically figures out what the county is, because I feel like a lot of people don't necessarily know the county in which they were born, or even the county in which they live. So I'm going to change my name from Jonathan to John. And it does input validation on things like dates, so I couldn't put in an invalid date. So now it's asking me for the where I was born, and it can handle international addresses too, although the form that Florida approved seems to assume everything was in the United States. So I'll put in the truth about where I was born. And one of the features is you can click things to get help about a term. So if you use any type of legalese, you can have it highlighted in green. The other thing is certain questions, if they really don't have an answer, you'll want to have some user-friendly way of figuring that out. So if somebody just doesn't really have if the maiden name concept just doesn't apply, you can click that and the whole thing goes away. And I have this in a developer mode, so I can see the source code that was used for the question. And so if I show source, it shows that this is what the interview author would type into the system in order to define this question. And so you can see it's not that many lines. The maiden name is a term that highlights in green because it has squiggly brackets around it. It also has some language here that will double for your mother or Jonathan Pyles' mother, depending on who's filling out the interview. And in order to do this show and hide thing, all I needed to do was say hide this field if the mother's maiden name is inapplicable, and that field is right here. And it's a yes/no question. It also does readability on the text of each of your questions, so you can click that source button to see whether your questions might need to be rephrased to use more simple language. It has some techniques for asking lists of things. So this form asks for like all the addresses where you've lived since you were born, basically. So that's one of the complicated things to do in document assembly is ask these lists of things. And the way that I handle it is it's sort of three questions. First, are there any elements in the list? Second, what is each element of the list? Like where did you live? And then last, are there any others? So I'll put in that I lived here at the time of my birth, and then it'll ask me additional information about that. When did I stop living there? And it also automatically computes. This is kind of complicated. It's where you can inject Python code into your question. So I have a default on the year, which is the year of their birth if you're on the first question, or else the year you stopped living at your previous address. So kind of a complicated concept to implement in an interview, but I can do that using a little bit of Python code. And you don't have to be an expert in the Python computer programming language to use this system, but if you're going to do cool stuff like that, you can. It helps if you know a little bit. So I'm going to say I haven't lived anywhere else. One of the nice things is when you're asking a question, you can refer back to the list of information you've already asked. I'm just going to say I'm not married. I have no children. And I said that one time my name was changed by a court. So I'm going to say that what my name was before and the name of the court. And then it asked me about when my name changed because of marriage. Then it asks a bunch of questions about your work as an employee and whether you own a business, and whether you're a member of a profession. And I wasn't exactly sure to what extent those are mutually exclusive, but I'm just going to skip all those because they're boring. Did you graduate from any schools? I'll say I graduated from Swarthmore College. Have you ever been arrested? I'll say yes here. You can include hyperlinks. So if I wanted to link to what that section of the statute was so that people could look it up, it'll load in another tab so they won't lose their place in the interview. And now it's getting back to what I talked about before, which was a money judgment. I said that there were money judgments, so I'm going to put in a money judgment. It formats dollars and cents appropriately. This is where I think the form is crazy. It expects you to know the case number of all the debt collection cases charged against you. Oops, that's not a date. And then it asks that about whether there are any others. So if I wanted to list more than one, I could say yes. Also, the form does this thing where it asks for multiple email addresses. So this can handle more than one email address. And it says, are you able to attach or take a picture of the marriage certificate? So if I'm on a device that has a camera, I can just take a picture of the document. Or if I don't have it with me, I'll just say no, and then I'll have to attach it later. So I'm going to say yes. Attach this marriage certificate I got off the internet here. Here's the court order. And so then it has all the information that it needs to prepare the petition, and it's now offering it to me in PDF format, and I can also email it to myself on this same page, so I can take a look at it here. So it has taken all the information I provided, put it into a PDF format, formatted pretty much like the approved form. Now, and there's the marriage certificate attachment and the court order attachment on separate pages. This can also be full page if you want it to be. Now, it's not like text for text identical to the PDF form. Now, if you do have a PDF form that you need to exactly fill in to the absolute letter, you can do that in Docassembly. I can either create documents from scratch or fill in PDF forms. Filling in PDF forms for something like this is just kind of more annoying because you have to worry about going on to attachment pages and things like that. But that can be done. And you can also,
Jonathan, yeah, this is Joyce. So what you just said was, so this is this document that you've created here, and I guess I'm really asking probably Katie. So is what Jonathan has created here a fileable document?
Yeah.
It's close enough to whatever. I mean, he's given us some, there's some minute details that are perhaps not, totally identical to the example that you gave him, but I mean, this is sufficient to be fileable.
Yeah, so the Florida Supreme Court provides, the approved forms, and when you go to the Florida Supreme Court website, they have PDFs with, blanks. But our A to J, when we create a document assembly, doesn't create a PDF that looks just like the Florida Supreme Court's. It does the same thing that Jonathan just showed us. It's taking that majority of the, formatting and putting in the information that the court needs.
Other than the fact it's got a notary draft.
Yeah.
So it's fileable, but not e-fileable.
Yep.
Right.
So,
right.
Yep.
But that's beyond the scope of this. That's correct.
Jonathan, did I hear it correctly? Was it only the format that has been changed? Because if there are words that have been changed, even if they're minute, we may not be allowed to use the tagline at the bottom, Florida Supreme Court approved form. I don't think they would have an issue with format as long as the words were exactly the same.
Yeah, we could remove the footer if there is some word that's different. Like, for example, I added this instead of the fill in the blanks about who filled it out. I just said it was prepared by the petitioner. So that's kind of a new thing.
Is Linda on the line yet? She had sent in an email that somebody responded to. Katrina, I think you responded to her.
Yeah, that was, I sent out the info, so I thought she'd have it. But I haven't gotten an email back, so I'm not sure where she is.
Okay.
What I was going to say at the bottom, that language, we've been using something that says, like, this form has been generated or made using A to J, or we would say from Docassembly, from Florida Law Help. So it kind of does give the clerks a heads up that they had some assistance or where they were getting the form from. So we're trying to incorporate that into some of the forms we've been working on. So,
Jonathan, go ahead, Jim.
I think to the point about the officialness of the form, it would probably be helpful to where you are changing it because you've seen a better way or a cleaner document or whatever the reason is that you're changing the exact word in the official approved form. To Justin's point, it would be helpful if we knew that behind the scenes. In other words, that you spotted an issue, that this is your solution, and that you're going forward in direction A as opposed to form direction B. Linda is part of what's happened within the commission, and I don't want to get off topic, but the subcommittee that I'm on has 3 charges. The second charge is to focus on self-represented litigants, and I would think that part of the discussion in that second charge is going to be to once and for all decide whether we're going to use DIY or Florida law help. And Linda is in charge of leading the discussion on that second charge. So we don't have chairman, but she's the charge leader. And then the third charge is resolving conflicts within the rules that limit access. And I'm in charge of that third charge. So it's going to help as we go forward to figure out why we made different choices and to document the discussion.
Okay. For today, I would like to get some information from Jonathan about, you know, the length of time it took for you to put this together, where this stuff is hosted, you know, if we were, you know, if we want to, you know, what's your vision? Is this something where we would ask you to continue to program these for us, or is this something where we would buy a license from you and then get some in-house capacity to make these forms going forward? I mean, just talk me through more of the business side of the creation of these forms, the use of this software, Jonathan.
So the software is open source free software. So you can go to the Docassembly website and just download it. It's available on GitHub. It can be deployed in a number of ways. I run it on my laptop. I work on it on the train, but the best way to do it is to put it in the cloud. Mm-hmm. And there are different ways to install it in the cloud. There's this very helpful system called Docker, which simplifies the installation of server software. And so that's all documented here. It can also be put into a system like Amazon Web Services, which is, you know, it's what runs Netflix. It's very high capacity, where you have multiple computers handling the same website at the same time. Okay. So if, you know, there were thousands of people in Florida all doing the same thing at the same time with court forms, then this system can adjust to that type of volume. And anybody can host this. You can just sort of spin it up in Amazon Web Services if you have an Amazon account. It's just mostly the big barrier is like understanding how to deploy an Amazon Web Services piece of server software. Right. And then, I was going to mention, one of the things that Docassembly can do is gather the signature from the user with the touchscreen. Now, it's not appropriate for a notarized form, but, you know, I could have put the signature image here. So if you do have forms where that's appropriate, that's a nice feature. The other thing that I've done with this form, with a little bit of Python code, is I figured out the county based on the address and the circuit. Mm-hmm. So that doesn't have to be put in by the clerk. I also figured out the division, but I might be wrong about it. It seems like the division might vary from county to county, not just circuit to circuit. So I looked up the division name that seemed to be in use for each circuit, but that's just one of the things that can be automated when you have the ability to put in, you know, any arbitrary Python code into your system.
Okay, so how long did it take for you to do this whole, you know, the interview and the assembly of the form, develop this whole thing to demo for us today?
I would guess a couple days, but you know, when I work on things, I I think, oh, I should add that as a feature. that would make it. I just thought of an idea for a cool feature.
Yeah,
So
that's
like
okay.
a lot of it's not working on the form per se, but working on other things. But I'll show you what it looks like to actually create it. I'm going to sign in into what I call the playground, which is where all the code is. And so it's a file called name change, which has sort of the objects that I want to populate, like a list of judgments, the desired name, and then each question is listed here, like where do you live, which could be where does Jonathan Pyles live, or where do you live, depending on who the client is. Do you have any other children? Children mentioned so far. So all the code is here, and then the document itself is a template file in the form called Markdown.
Right.
And so this is the sort of the source code of the document that we were just looking at in PDF. That's the introduction. So I, client, being sworn, certify that the following information is true. And so the nice thing about writing in Markdown is that it's not literal. It's not what you see is what you get. It's more conceptual. So, you know, I find it helpful as a programmer to list, I live in county and comma state at such and such address, rather than having that all blur on one line. The system takes care of formatting it appropriately, but I can lay it all out vertically because that's what makes sense when I'm trying to be organized.
Jonathan,
there are if-then-else statements and stuff like that. Yeah?
You had mentioned early on, and maybe this is a good time to ask this, that a person can sign in and store. Does it stop storing at a particular point that they've progressed to, number one, and then number two, where is it stored?
So it would be stored in the server or whatever
the cloud
system you were using for data storage. So on this, it's actually a computer in Atlanta that I rented from this company called Linode. So it's, you know, on some server. If it was in the cloud, then it would be in either the Microsoft Azure storage system, or it would be in the Amazon Web Services S3 system. Now the information is encrypted on the server. So even if a hacker were to break into the server, oh dear, sorry, I get distracted because Zoom is asking me for money in order to continue.
Wow, that's rude. Should not be happening.
So the data is stored on the server. It will expire after a period of inactivity. You can also have it expire as soon as the user clicks exit at the end of the interview. But that is something that people have control over.
While we're, since we might be on the clock, it looks like we might have run out in 9 minutes. Can you, when we met, you showed me something that somebody getting help with filling out the document with an advocate. Are you able to show us that?
Yeah, so that's a cool feature. Let me log in as an advocate, like a lawyer who helps people with stuff. So I'll sign in like that. I'll go to the monitor. And so this shows me a list of people who are currently filling out interviews on the server. And I'll go into another web browser, Chrome, and I'll open up the name change petition. And I'll say I'm filling it out for myself. And then civil rights have not been suspended. I agree. Now, over here on the monitor side, the attorney sort of standing by can see that there's somebody filling out a petition for change of name, and they can even observe their screen. Now, of course, we should get the client's consent before we activate this feature. But you know, as the client over here fills out the information, the advocate can just sort of look over their shoulder virtually and see what they're typing. So it asks, where do you live? And you know, just when they're typing, the information appears on the other side. The other thing that can be done is that the attorney monitoring can say that they're available for chat, and then over here, the client will see that there's somebody available to chat with, and they can ask a question, like, how do I do this? And it appears in real time over on the advocate side, and they can type a response, and it appears very quickly. The back and forth is very much in real time. The other thing that can happen is the attorney observing can even seize control of the person's screen and start typing in information for them. So that all that information appears in real time on the user screen, and then they can release control and turn it back to the user. So it is possible using the system to have some type of assisted system.
I thought that was really a cool feature.
It is really cool.
Like if you have pro bono attorneys who are willing to help out, because you probably don't want to assist everybody, but if you can use questions to flag people who have difficult situations who might need to have an attorney looking over their shoulder. So for the simple cases, they can just go through automatically, but the more complicated cases could get some level of assistance provided virtually. It's kind of like like doing this stuff in a computer lab, except you're not in the same location.
And is there any kind of validation on the documents that you uploaded, or is it just say it's a JPEG or something, and so it counts as a picture and we're just uploading, right?
It has to be a PDF image or a JPEG or a PNG.
But there's nothing that looks at the content to say, yeah, that looks like a marriage license?
I could do that. I do have this feature called that uses machine learning. And it can do optical character recognition, and then maybe run it through a machine learning algorithm in order to
But just as for right now, that is not the case. I'm just trying to understand the capacity.
Yeah, for right now, you can upload any picture you want.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
But you might have just sparked a new feature for Docassembly.
Yeah.
Woohoo! Yeah, that is something that I envisioned. People might do.
Yeah.
So if you upload a piece of mail that you received, and I'll tell you what kind of document it is.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm not sure why we're running out of time. I'm not sure why that's happening.
Well, it's because I didn't realize that this Zoom system was going to charge me money.
Yeah, I guess you didn't use our license. You did a freebie.
Yeah, I should have said it.
Yeah, I didn't realize I thought I was on a free plan. Yeah, they want $150 from me. Sorry about that.
No, we're not. We shouldn't do that to you. But I do want to. Does anybody, specifically Jim, do you have any other questions?
No, I love this. This is fantastic.
Yeah, I thought it was a really nice, clean, simple alternative, perhaps, to the A2J stuff.
It's certainly much more attractive.
Well, and if it took him 3 8-hour days to put this together, that's a pretty short amount of time given some of the other durations that we experience when we ask for A2J development. That's pretty fast.
Yeah. Jonathan, can you add a poorly line drawn picture of a courthouse, though? Just kidding.
Yeah,
copyrighted.
There is a feature for changing the background image if you really want that.
I do not.
Yeah, it's hard to fit that stuff on a smartphone screen.
Yeah, he's yanking your chain, Jonathan. You're being way too serious. So, if nobody, since we're going to run out of time of the audio portion, I would actually kind of like to talk to Jonathan just a little bit more about some of the, nerdy kind of background stuff. If folks are okay with wrapping this up now, it's certainly something we'll continue to revisit. And Katie, I didn't know if you had another demo of the Vince Morris stuff that maybe you should host and people could dial right back in the next 2 minutes.
No, I could do that. I was thinking that we would people could kind of poke around the Vince Morris stuff on their own. It's not very, we don't see the other side of it, and it's just kind of one by one question. There's not a lot to demo. It's just one question at a time. But I could do that. Do you want me? Does everybody still have time if I show you the?
Yeah, could I keep you guys on the line for a little bit longer? I'm mostly interested in Jim and Justin. If you could stay with us, and then she'll do a little demo really quickly. Will, Stephanie, and Allison, you're more than welcome to join us, but maybe do an FJT hosted Zoom that is not time delimited.
Yep. So I will leave this call and then send everybody the info for our FJTC Zoom, and I'll show you all the other one that we have.
That'd be awesome, Katie.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Jonathan.
Thank you, Jonathan.
Sure thing.
Awesome.
Thanks.
Why don't you dial back in, Jonathan, if you want to see Vince's DocuBot product, and or I will follow up with you by phone and chat a little bit more about the back end looks like.
Okay, cool.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Sure. See ya.